If no one told you that you were a sinner, would you have ever known that you were a sinner?
Let's actually talk about it. Because the hell am I just coming out of my mother's womb? I've not even done anything yet. But you are telling me that I'm already a sinner. That I inherited sin from Adam and Eve. First of all, who are these Adam and Eve fellows? Who that be for the film? Because my ancestors never heard of them. And if there's sin, what can concern me for inside? People are guilt-tripped into feeling bad for sins that they did not even commit, so that they would for the rest of their lives pursue righteousness that they would never get. The trap was well set. Catch you when you are young and make you believe that you should just be sorry. And now that you are sorry and willing to please, they tell you believe in Jesus or you would go to hell.
Now, the problem with this kind of statement is that it is misleading and oftentimes leads many to atheism. That is the effect of wrong Bible interpretation. It is because of statements like this that preachers of the gospel need to be very careful on how they present the truth of the scriptures. Now, it is wrong to think that you inherited sin from Adam and Eve. That is why you should watch this video till the end, as this and many more I will doctrinally examine in this video.
If no one told you that you were a sinner, would you have ever known that you were a sinner?
Well, you are not a sinner because someone told you that you are a sinner. In fact, there is no single way of defining who a sinner is from the scripture. The word sinner was always used in context. The use of the word is somehow peculiar to the New Testament books of the Bible. And that is where we can factor out context than a generic meaning. The word sinner was used 47 times in the Greek text of the Bible. It was translated from the Greek word hamartolos. The meaning of this word hamartolos was always derived within the context of its usage. The first time the word sinner was used in the New Testament books of the Bible, it was a public description. Matthew chapter 9 verse 10 to 12. And it came to pass, as Jesus sat at meat in the house, behold, many publicans and sinners came and sat down with him and his disciples. And when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto his disciples, Why eateth your master with publicans and sinners? But when Jesus heard that, he said unto them, They that be whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. If you observe carefully, you will find out that it was the Pharisees and the Sadducees that used the word first. The Pharisees and Sadducees used the word for others, that is those who did wrong. So the first use of the word was not Jesus, but a public description. They said, Why does your master eat with publicans and sinners? But in Jesus' response, he said, They that are sick. Obviously, he was not referring to literal sickness. The Pharisees were whole, meaning they didn't need him. The sinners were those who needed help. Verse 13 will say, But go ye and learn what that meaneth. I will have mercy and not sacrifices, for I am not come to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance. The phrase, I am not come to call the righteous, but sinners, was a figure of speech. The word sinners here was used positively by Jesus for those who needed help. The Pharisees and Sadducees here were called righteous, not because they were righteous, but because they claimed they didn't need help. So Jesus, in context, reused the word sinners in response to how the Pharisees and Sadducees used it. In another text, you will see the word sinners used for those who rebelled against the gospel. Matthew 26 verse 45, Then cometh he to his disciples and said unto him, Sleep on now and take your rest. Behold, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. The text speaks of how Judas betrayed Jesus into the hands of religious leaders. The text used the word sinners for those who rebelled against the message Jesus preached. So far, you can see that the word sinners did not have a universal meaning. Luke 5:8, when Simon Peter saw it, he fell down at Jesus' knee, saying, Depart from me, for I am a sinful man, O Lord. The word sinful man is the same Greek word for sinner man. Peter called himself sinner, but Jesus did not call him that. He called him by his name, Simon. See verse 10. Before we go to the epistles, let's see one more text in the four gospel. Luke 6 verse 32. For if ye love them which love you, what thank have ye? For sinners also love those that love them. Sinners also love. This is a positive credit to those which he called sinners. Inasmuch as that wasn't the kind of love Jesus wanted them to have, but there was a level of love he could accord to sinners. Verse 33 and 34 says, And if ye do good to them which do good to you, what thank have ye? For sinners also do even the same. And if you lend to them of whom you hope to receive, what thank have ye? For sinners also lend to sinners to receive as much again. What did Jesus mean in this text? Sinners were used for those who were not morally right in the society. So Jesus borrowed the word sinners from the vocabulary of the Pharisees and Sadducees. So far we can see that Jesus didn't allow Peter to call himself a sinner. He didn't call any of his disciples sinners. His usage of the word sinners was in relative to public opinion. The first time he used the word sinners, he used it from those who called themselves righteous, that is, those who are self-righteous, the Pharisees and the Sadducees. In the epistles, you can see the word sinners used for Paul in Romans chapter 3 verse 7. For if the truth of God had more abounded through my lie unto his glory, why yet am I also judged as a sinner? The people use the word sinner for Paul based on what they've heard about him in the past. So once again, it was used for someone who did wrong. Romans chapter 5 verse 8. But God commended his love towards us in that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. He explained this text in verse 10. For if, when we were enemies, we were reconciled to God by the death of his Son, much more, being reconciled, we shall be saved by his life. The word enemies was used for someone who opposes. So the word sinners in verse 8 was replaced by enemies in verse 10. Paul was referring to the rebellious. This cannot be applied to the whole of humanity. This is specific, but we will come back to this. Let's see Galatians chapter 2 verse 15. We who are Jews by nature are not sinners of the Gentiles. Paul used the word sinners of the Gentiles because that is what the Gentiles were called. Then he changed the narrative in the next verse. Knowing that a man is not justified by the works of the law, but by faith of Jesus Christ, even we have believed in Jesus Christ, that we might be justified by the faith of Christ, and not by the works of the law. For by the works of the law shall no flesh be justified. Paul is saying that the Gentiles were called sinners by the works of the law. What does that mean? The law was given to the Jews. The Jews thought that they were keeping the law despite the fact that none of them kept it. Since the Gentiles did not have the law, they were called sinners because they can freely do things which were against the law because they were not bound by it. So they called them sinners by the works of the law. So Paul now broke the system by saying that no man is justified by the works of the law. So that alone broke the definition of the word sinners by the works of the law. In seeking to be justified by the law, which no man was justified by, a man is found to be a sinner. The word sinner here seems like a definition of the law. There are more texts we could use to define who a sinner is, but let's go back to the initial video.
Let's actually talk about it. Because the hell am I just coming out of my mother's womb? I've not even done anything yet. But you are telling me that I'm already a sinner. That I inherited sin from Adam and Eve. First of all, who are these Adam and Eve fellows? Who they be for the film because my ancestors never heard of them? And if there's sin, what can concern me for inside? People are guilt-tripped into feeling bad for sins that they did not even commit, so that they would for the rest of their lives pursue righteousness that they would never get. The trap was well set. Catch you when you are young and make you believe that you should just be sorry. And now that you are sorry and willing to please, they tell you believe in Jesus or you would go to hell.
It is very wrong to think that you inherited sin from Adam and Eve. That is not true. The Bible did not say so. Romans chapter 5 verse 19 says, For as by one man's disobedience many were made sinners, so by the obedience of one shall many be made righteous. The word made is not automatic. It means to be ordained. It is the word used for a high priest. And you know that a high priest was not born a high priest. A high priest was ordained to function as a high priest. So the word made means ordained to function. By one man's disobedience, many were made sinners, not all. Many were made sinners, not all. The fact that they did not say all means not everyone inherited sin from Adam, if that was to be true. The second part of the text says, by the obedience of one, many were made righteous. If you interpret that text to mean that Adam's sin automatically made everyone a sinner, it will mean that Jesus' death also made everyone righteous, which is not true. The implication of this statement means that you can be saved outside faith and choice. Ephesians 2 verse 8 says, For by grace are you saved through faith, meaning faith is an essential part of salvation. You cannot take away the faith factor from salvation. Adam's sin did not make everyone a sinner. There are those who did not sin after the similitude of Adam's transgression. Look at verse 14 of that same chapter. Nevertheless, death reigned from Adam to Moses, even over them that had not sinned after the similitude of Adam's transgression, who is the figure of him that was to come. So there were those who did not sin after the similitude of Adam's transgression, and you could see that Adam was a figure of he that is to come, which is Christ. That is why Adam and Christ was a figurehead to describe two different races. So how do we know that there were those who did not sin after the similitude of Adam's transgression? The first example you could look out for is Adam's son, Abel. Hebrews 11 verse 4 let us to know that by faith Abel was righteous, meaning Abel was not a sinner. So if Abel, who was Adam's son, did not inherit sin from Adam, why do you think that you inherited sin from Adam? It was not only Abel. Abraham was a righteous man, even Noah. So why didn't these people inherit Adam's sin? It's because it's a function of choice and faith. Sin is not inherited. So what does Romans 5:19 mean? It means that Adam created a pattern of sin for those who will follow after his example. And Jesus also created a pattern of righteousness for those who will follow him. Christ was presented before Adam, which is the tree of life, and he did not choose Christ. God couldn't have made the choice for us because we are not robots. We are to make the choice ourselves. We are to choose between life and death. And if you choose death, then you live by the consequences of it. Remember, God did not create death. Death is the absence of life. It's because life is no more available. That is why death shows itself. Just like light and darkness, even science have proven that there's nothing like darkness. Darkness was not created, it was light. So darkness is the absence of light. So darkness is the vicarious consequence of rejecting light. So this is the principle of light and darkness. So how do you identify with Adam's sin? By rejecting what Adam rejected, by rejecting Jesus Christ. So within the context of this explanation, you are a sinner by not believing in Jesus. Because there were also scriptures where believers were called sinners by walking in the flesh. If you believe in Jesus, you are righteous by faith. Simple. So Romans chapter 5 verse 19 can best be interpreted as, for by one man's disobedience, many were ordained to follow that example of disobedience. So by the obedience of one, many shall be ordained to follow the same example of righteousness. So before you accuse Adam for why you are a sinner, watch this video again. To know more about who a sinner is, click here. And to know if God tolerates sin, click here, and I will see you in the next video.